Hi, I'm Coach Shermaine, your host, and welcome to Get Out of Your Own Way, the podcast. A podcast where we discuss all things leadership development, personal growth, and have real conversations about the hurdles, some of the pitfalls that we experience when we're trying to reach our goals. The mission of this podcast is to bring tips, strategies, things that you can actually use to help you achieve success. And what's success? Success is how you describe it, not anyone else. So sit back, relax, but lock in, let's commit, and let's go. So hello, Goal Crushers, and welcome to the Get Out of Your Own Way podcast with Coach Shermaine. And we are well into December. And in this particular series of the podcast, we are chatting about having a personal growth plan versus New Year's resolutions. And so we all know what happens to New Year's resolutions once we're 1 month, 2 months, and if you're good, 3 months into the new year, they're non existing. And so I am challenging my goal crushers to really take the time to pull together a personal growth plan. Because if this is your first time tuning into me, I've been discussing there are only 2% of the population that actually achieves their goals. 98% fail. And so I want to make sure that because you're riding with me and that you're considered a goal crusher, that you will be able to be in the top 2% and achieve your goals. So, personal growth plan is a way to ensure that you do just that. And so, whenever you're setting out to do something big or achieve some major success or what have you, there's going to be some hurdles or some pitfalls that actually come into play. And so, that's what we've been discussing in this particular series because I'm a firm believer of if you know what's coming, if you're able to set yourself up to believe that there's going to be some hurdles that you're going to overcome, then you are more apt to find success. So, with that in mind, we've been discussing some of the pitfalls and some of the hurdles that keep us from achieving our goals. And so, one of the most major hindrances of achieving your goals and leveling up is an F word, and not the F word that you think, but the F word of fear. Yes, we all experience this F word. We do. And so when we think about fear and approaching our goals, this type of fear is a fear of failure. It's described as a fear of stepping out of your comfort zone, a fear of facing the challenges that can hinder your progress. And we have all been there, including myself. And so, in neurolinguistic programming, NLP, one of the methodologies that I use in my coaching practice, I challenge my clients to face fear head on. And I'm going to challenge you to do the same. Because if you don't, I'm just going to call it plain, say it how it is, not sugarcoating it. You're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. So if you think about fear and facing it head on and understanding that we all experience it and what you want to achieve and some of the best things in your life are on the other side of fear, if you really kind of think about some of the successes that you've had. We've all had those times where we are comfortable. We don't want to step outside of that comfort zone. And we don't set out to achieve major things because, we fear that we're going to fail. But if you acknowledge that this emotion is a very, very important of self-development and self-growth, then you'll be successful. And if you're having some trepidation, fear of pulling together this growth plan and putting action steps in place, I want you to think about that this emotion is an expected emotion, that emotion of fear. And for you to be able to have a true and well executed plan, you have to be able to overcome that fear and get on the other side of it. So, if you find yourself in this position, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. What's the worst thing that can happen? If you sit down and pull together this growth plan and you set out on this journey to achieve your goals and aspirations, what's the worst thing that can happen? And really ask yourself that and answer yourself. Because if you can do that, you're already setting in place the worst case scenario. And then the next step is coming up with, what am I going to do when the worst case scenario happens? If the worst case scenario happens, because all of us, I know that I can ruminate on things, and sometimes the worst thing that can happen, it never is. But take the time to think about that and ask yourself that question. And again, answer yourself out loud, because you're not crazy for doing so. Because if you're sitting down to having a conversation with a friend, and a friend asks you, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to answer them out loud, right? So answer yourself out loud. What's the worst thing that could happen? Be your own bestie in this situation, in this actually not situation, but scenario. Be your own bestie, because the fear is going to set in without a shadow of a doubt. And this is why it's important to face it head on. I promise that you'll get to the other side. Don't give up. Anything that's valuable takes time, and you're worth it. So, as we continue on, I want to talk about how to overcome some of the hindrances that we have talked about throughout this particular podcast. And if today's your first day listening and tuning in, I implore you to go back and listen to the others, because I promise you that you're going to get a couple of tips or some golden nuggets from some of the previous podcast episodes. So, self reflection, I can't express this enough, how important it is for you to really take the time to do some self reflection. Identify those personal barriers and develop strategies to address them. Think about 2024, all of the things that you're proud of. Think about some of the disappointments that you've had in 2024 and come up with a really good plan on how you can repeat those great times, those successes, and what you would do differently in regards to some of those disappointments. Secondly, set SMART goals. And many of you have probably heard about these in business. We talk about them quite a bit. SMART goals stand for S, being specific; M, making sure that the goal is measurable; A, making sure that the goal is achievable; R, making sure that the goal is relevant; and T, making sure that the goal is time bound. So sit down, create those goals, make sure that they're SMART goals, and that each goal is touching the S, M, A, R, and T that makes up SMART. Third, develop a plan. Create a concrete plan with actionable steps and deadlines. Next, seek support. Find a mentor, join a support group, talk to a coach to help you achieve the goals that you have now taken the time to identify. Next, practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself and acknowledge setbacks and learning opportunities. When you're setting out to do big things, there are going to be times where you're going to be scared and you're not going to be you're not going to show up as your best self. Watch the negative self-talk. Have the filter on what you're also allowing to come in. But be proud of yourself. You're listening to this podcast. You're looking for ways to improve yourself, ways that you can level up. So be proud of yourself and ensure that you are practicing self-compassion. Prioritize time management. And I've said it before in a previous podcast that we all have the same amount of time. It's how you manage yourself. And when you know that there's a goal that you want to achieve, there's a specific task that you need to achieve, there are going to be times where you just don't feel like doing it. But if you manage yourself, you can make it happen. Time management versus self-management. Time management versus self-management. But allocate the dedicated time for self-development activities. Because if you don't allocate the time for self-development activities, then basically it's just not going to get done. And I know you're busy. We're all busy. But can you afford not to work on yourself? And I'm going to tell you, your answer should be no. No, Coach Shermaine, I cannot. So make sure that you're making the time to actually develop yourself. And I said this before, but it's worth saying it again. Really important. Challenge your negative self-talk. Replace your negative thoughts with positive affirmations. And I know it sounds a little sappy. Positive affirmations. What are you talking about? Well, listen, we've all been there. If someone gives you a compliment and you respond to them with this old thing, or girl, I got this from the dollar store, or if you shoot down that compliment, that's negative self-talk. So challenge that because it's extremely important. And as I mentioned before, be your own bestie. Be your own bestie. Talk to yourself in a positive way. Tell yourself that you can do this. In NLP, the methodology that I use in my coaching practice, we call this visualization. And some of you that are sports fans, you've seen it. You have heard some of the top NBA players talk about how they can get up to that free shot, right? And this is going to be the winning shot. And they're able to come up, and there's all these people around them, these distractions. People are hollering, calling them all kinds of names. Losers, you can't do this. But what happens? Some of the best, they get up there, they tune out the negative talk that's around them. And what do? They visualize it. They say that they can do it. They see themselves doing it, and they make it happen. And you can do this too. You can definitely make it happen. So, Goal Crushers, as we look to wrap up this particular series of the podcast, I want us to really think about how we can go into 2025 and make it the best year ever. And we've all heard it that if you want to do something, achieve something great, you got to do something different. Well, this is it. Take the time and invest in you and work on this growth plan. I've said it before, but I have to say it again. If you need some assistance or help, I got you. I've got an amazing free, yes, free 99 downloadable growth plan on my website, www.coachshermaine.com, that you can use to help you with this journey. So I hope that this has helped you as it's helped me. Golden nuggets are here. If you pull them out, I promise that they're there for you. I'd love to hear from you. Give me some feedback as we continue to go on this journey. Because I'm your get out of your own way coach. And for you to be able to achieve success, you got to get out of your own way. So hit me up on IG at Coach Shermaine. Subscribe on this channel because I'm going to be dropping some other episodes, all right? Or as I mentioned before, I'll mention it again, shameless plug, www.coachshermaine.com is my website. But I want to thank you so much for riding with me. And as I always say, make it a great day because you can.